Welcome to the Data Dojo Podcast, hosted by Adam Massey and powered by the Aurek Group. Every week, we dive deep into the world of data, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Here, we bring you conversations with the leading minds who are shaping the future of these cutting-edge fields. So get ready to unlock the secrets of data and discover the stories behind the algorithms.
Hi there, and welcome to the Data Dojo Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Massey, and so far we're on season 1, episode 5 now. And this week I'm joined by Stephen Du. So Stephen Du, he's a partner technical specialist for all things data and AI at IBM. His main focus is working with different customers and clients and helping them get the most out of these modern data platforms and AI platforms. So welcome to the podcast, Stephen. How are you today?
Thank you, Adam. I'm very well, thank you.
And thanks for coming in on such a gloomy Sydney day today. Appreciate that.
That's all right.
So what I'd like to do is just to start off by getting a bit of a background on your journey today, and then maybe a little bit more information about the role that you've got now with IBM.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. I'd say my career has been quite a transformational journey so far. I did a degree in UNSW called bioinformatics, which was a blend of biology and computing. And then when I actually started my career, it was mainly focusing on software development side. So I did a few years in software development and then moved into management consulting. Yep. So that's where I sort of focused more on data analysis, data modeling, but also gave me a lot of opportunity to have client facing. So meet clients, understand their requirements, etc. Moved into quite a few years in management consulting, into data analytics, data science, such as companies like Quantium.
Yeah, and I think that's when we started. We spoke originally quite a number of years ago.
Yes, exactly. Right. So Quantium was really working with key customers like Woolworths, trying to look at their customer analytics to transform some of their customer engagement strategies, etc., specifically in areas like Woolworths Metro and home brands. And then after that, an opportunity came along that was more focused on pre-sales. Before that point, I didn't even know that there's a role called pre-sales existed. So when I actually got into that, it was a supply chain company called JDA. Now it's called Blue Yonder. And that's when I realized that all those skills I've accumulated, for example, from a technical perspective, softwares, from a management consulting perspective, client-facing, etc., can all be applied to this new role called pre-sales. Yeah. It's a role that's supporting, it's together with the sales teams, but showcasing the technical capabilities of the technologies. And it's really a rewarding role that I found that plays to my strengths very nicely. One thing I did find that was the company the Blue Yonder was focused on supply chain, which wasn't an area that of my particular sort of strength. And I realized that in this area, you actually need a lot of experience talking to customers. So it's not just about technology, right? And I remember that when I first joined the company, one of my mentors said that, Stephen, in this particular role, you'll find that, yes, technology is the fundamental core skill set, but the business, the thinking, the commercial acumen is much more than that. So I realized that a lot as I dive into the role when I was at Blue Yonder, right? I had to sit in front of clients that's got 30 years of supply chain experience, that knows every single details of their warehouse operations. And how am I going to talk to that if I don't have much experience in that? Yes, I know the technical stuff. I can talk about demand forecasting, ML-driven forecasting. But if I don't know the industry specifics, it's very hard. So at that stage, I realized that pre-sales is definitely the role I really enjoy, but I need to focus on the subject matter that I really have passion in. And that's that's data and AI. And that's how I came across the opportunity with IBM. Yeah. And it was just the perfect role for me because I look after a portfolio within IBM that's really focusing on IBM's data and AI technologies. Some of the latest, for example, AI platforms, as well as some of the AI applications like virtual assistants, as well as some of the governance capabilities like data governance, AI governance areas. So, and we get to work with a lot of different customers from all these different industries. So every day, the role and the type of initiatives are very different. So one day I could be standing in front of customers doing a demo and presentation. Next day, I could be looking at some deals, for example, some getting into some of the nitty-gritties of deals, trying to progress that particular deal. And then next day I could be doing a public speaking or just focusing on coding, etc. So the role is very diverse and requires all of the past experience and skill sets I have accumulated. And I remember when I was talking to my previous Blue Yonder, my mentors and managers, I was like, I think pre-sales is, I could almost call it as like the special forces of a company. That's how I would term it, right? Because you have to kind of be the bridge across technical areas as well as the commercial areas. So you have to be able to understand some of the technical details to showcase the capabilities in front of clients, but also be commercially driven enough to understand, okay, this is an opportunity I should be investing time in. It's a well-qualified opportunity. On the other side, you have to be mindful of what's going on the market, what's going on with competitions, formulate a strong point of view in front of client to say that I believe this is, Mr. Client, this is the way, this is an ideal solution for you. So it's actually what we call a respectively challenger mindset. And that means that we want to present a point of view that we, after proper consultation with our customers to truly understand problems, we want to present a differentiated point of view that is what we believe is ideal for customers in joint consultation with customers. That may not always be what customer initially required, but through that consultative process, we uncover where the real value is. And I find that in most cases, our customers would respect that we come with a strong point of view, with integrity, with transparency, and with honesty upfront.
Excellent. So I guess with IBM, obviously, it is a very competitive landscape out there, particularly across those big kind of tech giants. And often IBM is not always front and center of people's minds. So I guess what is it that IBM does differently to their competitors that gives them that kind of edge?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Adam. I think these days, right, I remember a very funny story where one of my colleague went into unis and asked the uni students, do any of you know what IBM is? The room was pretty silent. Right? And then one student stood up and said, did they make microwaves? So I guess IBM has been around for about 113 or 14 years now.
Wow.
You would not think of a technology company with that kind of history. When we think about 100+ year things, usually it's a museum or antique shop. So, but IBM has a long and proud history, right? It's pivotal in terms of computing world and really bringing technology to mankind. So starting with, for example, I think IBM started with creating typewriters. It invented things like floppy disks. It helped the Apollo missions. And then all the way to mainframes, which was like, one of the first big computers for enterprises. And mainframe, despite all these years, it's still going very strong today. And believe it or not, one of my colleagues, we often like to use a timeline journey that basically shows, for example, in the past 60 years, 5 different transformations that IBM has done over to reinvent itself. Because for it to really be thriving and successful for so long, obviously market goes up and down. There are times where IBM technologies were pretty much 80 and 90% of the market. Right today, yes, the landscape is changing, but IBM may not be front and center of people's mind. But when you think about a lot of the technologies that we still interact with today, for example, if we make a payment on our phone, right? That transaction could be powered by IBM mainframe computers in one of the core bankings. So IBM technologies is still some of the mainstays of running modern economies today. Trillions of transactions still go through those mainframe computers today. It may not be front and center because IBM hasn't been very much in the consumer-facing market. Has been really much focused on the enterprise type of market. The clients, what we find is when it comes to real hard problems, they would still come to IBM to solve it. And through these 5 different transformations in the past 60 years, from mainframe to PC to services, and then now to cloud, hybrid cloud, AI, and quantum computing. One thing I do find is that IBM still maintains a very strong strong thought leadership in this area.
Yep.
So, for example, IBM Research is still one of the largest research facilities around the world, industrial research facilities around the world. And then of the Institute of Business Value, one of the top 3 think tanks around the world, continuously survey a lot of the C-level suite to provide thought leadership on the change, ever-changing market dynamics today. And when it comes to AI today, right? We know that in the past, for example, since 2022, ChatGPT has been really brought the AI, generative AI, front and center of everybody's mind. And really credits to OpenAI to be able to bring that to everybody's, to have an impact on everyone's lives. IBM has been in AI for a long time, since, for example, some of the famous events such as 1997, where Deep Blue computers beat the world chess champion, and 2011, Watson won the Jeopardy competitions. And then there was another one in 2019, what we call Project Debater, where Watson is actually debating the European champions. We know how complicated, how complex can debating become. Right? So you got to understand the arguments, summarize, synthesize information, create a counter argument. So the Watson AI was able to do debating with the world European debating champion. That's almost like a prelude to what the ChatGPT, generative AI, is capable of today. So going forward, the point of view of AI is quite differentiated. It's not really, the experience is more focused around how can we make that more efficient for enterprise environment. So the considerations is more around securities, more around cost efficiency trade-offs, more around scalability, and more around domain-specific applications. So I think since the ChatGPT wave, IBM has created jointly with Meta, set up these, what we call the AI Alliance, and now involves, at last count, I think around over 100 different world organizations, both enterprises as well as academic universities, etc. So companies like Uber, like Databricks, like Snowflake, like universities, some of the leading universities like Yale, they're all part of this alliance, because everybody recognizes that the future of AI is open, because open encourages innovation, open ensures transparency, open ensures that there are public scrutinies in terms of the type of algorithm behind, etc., and really encourages more people contributing to the same thing. So if we look at today, really the open AI, open technologies has been pretty much neck and neck now versus some of the proprietary closed technologies. Right? So this is very encouraging sign for because we recognize that IBM recognizes that not every organization has the capability to be able to build and fine-tune its own foundation model. It's very expensive to do. So for companies like Meta, by releasing Llama open source models, they allow everybody to be able to use that model to build their own applications on top of it.
And that ultimately is just going to push everyone forward
in
terms of pushing the boundaries of innovation.
Exactly, yes.
That's really interesting. I guess we're talking about sort of scalability there.
Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest challenges when you're helping companies adopt these kind of technologies at scale?
Yeah. So some of the key consideration of scale when it comes to enterprise thinking is around cost-benefit trade-offs. It's around setting up the proper governance framework. Well, I saw one of the recent Gartner survey, right, studies that this current state of generative AI projects today, only 8 or 9% is in production. And the reason is because Gartner actually had another very interesting chart called the Hamburg chart, where on top the bread slices was like some of the decentralized AI in terms of bringing data, right, close to the edge, to the devices, etc. And at the bottom, I think was like centralized AI, or maybe the other way around, I can't remember. But essentially the different ways that we can build AI models interact. But at the center, it was all around trust, security, and risk management. And it involves both human as well as technologies together. So that really, to me, summarizes the critical problem that most enterprises are facing today, is that we can play around with Gen AI all day long, building POCs, building pilots, etc. But when it comes to production, it's a whole different level of consideration.
Yeah.
We can use some of the biggest models out there to showcase the best and coolest features, but those models might cost quite significant. So it could be something like $15 for 1 million tokens. So when you start using that in production, the cost will add up really quickly. So cost versus optimization consideration is a key point here. Because when it comes to production cases, if we're just asking our foundation models to do one particular specific task, such as classifying, for example, an image or classifying an insurance type of claim, do we need a full-blown model that's really good at everything from astronomy all the way to geology? Or can we go by with a model that's very targeted and focused just for that specific task at a fraction of the cost? So that cost consideration. Secondly, it's governance. So we know that these foundation models are built on transformer architectures, which is essentially one of the type of neural networks. And to today, I haven't seen any sort of approach that can really unpack at the most granular level the inner workings of these models. It is very difficult because we're talking about billions or trillions of parameters, like all these different model weights updating each other as they go through. One of the recent ones I saw was a joint study between Georgia Tech and IBM Research that attempts to unpack some of that transparency. It was really, really good in terms of unpacking some of the processes. And I think that's a major step forward. But until we can really truly unpack everything, right, still can be a challenge to understand the inner workings. So having the right governance is to ensure that we can mitigate and manage the potential risks of those models to minimum. We all know that the hallucination of this foundation model is a major problem. Right? We've seen a lot of stories online. For example, we're being advised to put glue on pizza or quite a different, because these models in nature have a tendency to confidently hallucinate. It will say something that you think it's true, but in fact it's not. Right? So to having the right governance process in an enterprise setting, that involves both human and technologies together to ensure that we have confidence in applying these models, control those risks, so that it's not just about meeting regulatory compliance, such as EU AI Act. And I think Australia will have already in September released the 10 guardrails for AI, and which essentially is a prelude to upcoming mandate. So it's not just about meeting regulatory compliance, but for organizations to be able to grow and thrive with confidence. That's where how I see governance is critical.
Yeah, and I guess obviously the responsible use of AI is more important than ever. So how do you believe, or what do you believe is essential to ensure that AI implementations are also scalable, but also are ethical as well?
Yes, yeah. So I can take an example from an IBM perspective, right? Within IBM, we have a structure, what we call AI ethics board, where IBM's chief data and privacy officers and legal counsels are all part of that board, right? And that's at the heart of decision making for every services and products that IBM makes. So I think to ensure ethical and responsible AI is really a blend of human and technologies. From a human side, we should ensure the right governance framework and the right governance structure. So teams like chief risk officers, chief compliance officers, they should all have a stake at the core decision-making process of this, because these technologies, these products, companies today wants to really thrive in the future, right? They have to embrace AI technology. It's going to be their key differentiator. It's going to catapult them to become industry leaders. But for them to be able to adopt this confidently and responsibly, today all you need is one bad news to get on the headline, and that's permanent. These kind of brand damages can be in the billions. So I think for organization really to be able to grow and thrive with confidence in an AI-powered future, they will have to ensure that the right risk and governance teams are in the process, and they have to collaborate together with technical teams like our data scientists, our data engineers, MLOps engineers, who are involved day to day in development of these products. right?
Yeah.
Those highly talented and skilled people, they can come up with the best ideas, best technologies in terms of using the next state-of-the-art algorithms to come up with the best predictions or best recommendation engines. But that product, right, the choice of the algorithms, that needs to be connected with the risk and governance process within the organization. To say that right from the inception of that product's use cases, all the way to the life cycle tracking of that product, development, from development to testing to deployment to monitoring, how can the risks be properly managed? Like in terms of understanding what are the potential risks of that product, to the organization, and its impact on business processes, those should be properly mapped out so that it's clear and transparent, and if required, can be reported accurately for regulatory purposes. So that's where I see the key points around really ensuring adoption of responsible AI. It's a cultural shift, it's a cultural mindset, and it involves teamwork between both technical and business and risk and compliance teams together to join. And we want technology to be an enabler for that process, not each team to become a potential bottleneck. So I think that's the risk that we have to be careful with, is that, okay, now we're talking about a process that we have to go through, an approval process. Or what if that team sits on it for a while and then just becomes a bottleneck? So we want technology to streamline that process, automate as much as possible, and encourage teams to really be collaborative in that streamlined process.
Yeah, excellent. We did touch on LLMs just now. I guess for enterprise level customers, what are the kind of best practices that you would recommend to ensure that these models are effective, secure, and also aligned with the organization's goals as well?
Yes, that's a very good question, and something I'm very passionate to talk about. We all know a lot of those common models out there today, like ChatGPT, Anthropic, Gemini, a lot of those models, right? Fantastic, powerful models out there. What we see is a lot of these models today, right, is built on public data. Actually, 99% of those data that goes into those models are based on public data, right? Yeah. In fact, those public data are probably already exhausted because it's easier to run. The real value for enterprises is about unlocking the corporate data. And those corporate data are locked behind firewalls, locked inside high security computer, etc. So we can see that these large foundation models can answer a lot of good generic questions like, okay, when was the last time that we landed on moon, etc. But when it comes to understanding my company's specific policies, that's where it comes short, because it doesn't have that knowledge. So really, for enterprises, the way to unlock value for enterprises is to be able to really fine-tune those models on their own enterprise data. And that's where we believe IBM has a really strong differentiated point of view. And I refer to one of the sessions where Dario, IBM's director of research, he gave a really good story on that. And that story is around, imagine that you have a jar of liquid. Right. And the liquid, let's say you don't know currently the liquid inside, right, because it's coming from public data. Right? You don't know. Yes, it could be from Wikipedia. It could also come from Reddit. What if it came from dark web? You don't know. So that liquid is opaque to you. And then now you want to pour juice, your precious corporate data into it. Would you drink that liquid afterwards? Right? I think it would be crazy if anybody wants to drink that liquid. That's the situation. If you want to fine-tune, truly realize value for enterprises and fine-tune, use your enterprise data on data models that's built on public domain data, especially closed proprietary models where we don't know where the data is coming from. There's no clear kind of lineage or documentation of what was trained on, etc. That is a high risk. So that's why we believe that first you start with a base model, foundation model that's trustworthy, that's as clear and as transparent as possible. So, for example, the Granite models from IBM, it documents clearly all of the types of data that it was trained. What are some of the processes it took in terms of processing, removing a lot of those sensitive information like PII, or whether it's hatred, abusive profanity languages, etc. A lot of process has gone through in terms of ensuring that the final content that feeds into the foundation model is trustworthy, as clear and transparent as possible. So going back to that jar example, that essentially refers to clear liquid. You know that it's actually water inside. Then you're confident enough to mix it with your own juice, right? Corporate data, etc. And the Granite model is also open source under the Apache 2.0 license. Is one of the best standard for open source. IBM also provides legal indemnifications because it's confident that the content within the model is as much as transparent as trustworthy as possible. So I think that's probably one key consideration, is that when we look at fine-tuning and building our LLMs, it's important really to ensure a transparent and trustworthy base model first. It doesn't have to be, I'm just using Granite as an example, right? It could be other models. As long as that base model, we are confident that the input into that model, those data imports, we're confident of its quality, right? And based on that, then we should be able to fine-tune this model with our enterprise data. And that's where another bottleneck comes in, is that today, fine-tuning is a very expensive process and typically requires high technical teams, right? But little did we realize that technical teams are very good at technical areas like building fine-tuning AI models, but they may not have the best of industry and domain knowledge. Those knowledge usually sits within SMEs in an organization. Right? Our business teams, our subject matter experts. So how can we really unleash the full potential of enterprise knowledge in foundation models? We need to involve them. Right? And the best way to involve them is to democratize the model fine-tuning process. And that's where the other really interesting and novel kind of technique jointly developed by IBM and Red Hat, we call it Instruct Lab. It essentially allows every business user to be able to contribute into the fine-tuning of their corporate foundation models, providing 2 to 3 high-level, in a nutshell. So welcome to sort of search for Instruct Lab and dive into details. But in a nutshell, allows them to create 2 to 3 highly curated samples. Right? It could be questions, answers, etc. Provide a list of documentations as more information. And Instruct Lab uses a teacher model to generate a lot of synthetic data based on those couple of highly curated samples and the corporate facts. It could be FAQs or Wikipedia document, etc. And then create a lot of synthetic data that helps to fine-tune a student model. A student model could be a base model like Granite, etc. Right? And then that process removes the exhaustive and painstaking human effort of creating hundreds of thousands of sample data and ensures that everybody, including subject matter expertise, can contribute to that. Right. So the result is you can have a model that is fine-tuned based on corporate data in a streamlined and less technical process. Obviously, technical people are still involved. They're involved in the process of merging all these contributions from SMEs into what we call like taxonomy, right? Essentially, it's like a tree mapping of those different subject matter expertise content, ensure that it's balanced, right? We know that, okay, the data for each different topic is properly represented because currently it's a black box, right? We don't know whether how skewed the data. So that taxonomy ensures balanced distribution of the different type of content into the topic so that the final fine-tuned model has the additional understanding of corporate content, corporate culture, corporate technologies without compromising some of the original kind of knowledge or learnings and skill set it was built based on. Right? So that's how I see is potentially that technology could really unlock the value for enterprises and really transform. And the base model can be a small one. It doesn't have to be those large models like ChatGPT, that goes on trillions of parameters. We can pick one of the 1 billion or 3 billion or hundreds of million parameter models and tune that. And that ensures cost efficiency trade-offs as well.
Excellent. Also, so So basically with AI, obviously it's got so much potential to significantly boost productivity across a variety of different industries, across pretty much everyone across the world. How are companies using AI to make their teams more productive? And what's your take on its impact that it's having on those types of workforces?
Yeah, I think that's a topic that's on everybody's mind today.
Yeah.
Where should I start? I guess this has been these past couple of years has been phenomenal in terms of AI's impact and transformations on people's, but essentially, right, if we think about the transformation of these technologies, there's a couple of, I think, anchor points we could look at. One is historically, right, in an enterprise setting, some of those AI's interactions with humans are in the form of what we call chatbot. So when we look at it today, it almost looks like a dinosaur to us. It's a very rigid process. I think a lot of us would have experiences, right? When we go on the website and say, okay, hey, I need this information. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? What's your name? My name is Stephen. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? That's our experience with chatbot. Yeah. And then in the past couple of years, the focus was around what we call conversational AI and an AI assistant, right? Where the AI assistant is able to give us a guided journey in terms of you could come up with a prescriptive process to say, okay, can I collect this information? And then what are the next steps and stuff? And it's able to, for example, interact with some of our backend systems, for example, my HR systems or CRM system to say, okay, Stephen, I see that you have done, this is your past transactions with us, etc. So it's starting to become more personalized, but it's still quite rigid in terms of its interaction capabilities with human. And then with Gen AI wave, that interaction becomes more conversational. So the experience has become much more human friendly, I would say.
Yeah.
Previously, it would say something like, I found the following links quite useful for us. Now it's like, thank you, Stephen. These are the policies, and it can go into details about these policies because generative AI can leverage architecture, a very well-known architecture today, what we call RAG, right? Retrieval augmented generation, to really understand the policies and context, and etc. Going forward, that's where a lot of market has been talking about agentic workflows, or some would call compound AI systems. Essentially, what it is instead of a AI or automation to go through a prescriptive process, it's allowing AI and AI agents to be more autonomous in terms of leveraging large language models to do some planning, some reasoning, and calling upon different tool sets to be able to perform that task.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen also, for example, if I wanted to ask a complex question is, hey, I want to go to Bali. I want to understand which day I should go onto the beach. The AI agent will start searching for tickets from travel website. It will start searching for weather patterns from weather channels. It will start searching across Google Maps to understand the ideal locations. And based on this, it will be able to recommend an optimal journey plan for me. To say, Stephen, this day the UV is slightly better. This location has good sort of meal accommodation, etc. So that's where the industry is moving in terms of allowing AI agents to be more autonomous in planning and reasoning and thinking going forward. It's going really fast. Every day is different, right? There's a lot of different open source frameworks being developed today, such as LangChain, LangGraph, Llama. IBM has released its own multi-agent frameworks like B, etc. It's all around how we can really orchestrate that sort of interactions more automated and more controlled in this way. How I could see that really impact on us, right, on enterprises, on people, is that instead of really having this fear to say, oh, it's going to replace my jobs, right? How about let's look at it in a way that how can I use this technology to make me even more productive and even more irreplaceable, right? How can I use this technology to remove some of the frictions in the work that I do today? For example, let's say that I'm a salesperson, right? Well, I am actually. If I wanted to send a personalized campaign based on a new sales play, I might have to manually go through a Salesforce to pulling all those records. And now I might have to look at one by one, understand, okay, that particular person, what's its recent situation. And based on that, I'll come up with the right product recommendations and then start writing up a personalized email to say, Mr. Bob, blah, 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 and then send it out. This process might take 3 to 4 hours or even half a day.
Yeah.
But with AI agent or AI assistant, fastly moving towards AI agent, I could ask it through natural language, give me all the records, and it will give me all the records, and it will start using decision engines behind to automatically compare and come up with the right product recommendations, and automatically use Gen AI to come up with personalized emails. And all I need to do is just look at the emails, curate it, and send it out, taking 3 to 4 hours work into five minutes. So that's an example where we see that this technology can really help us speed up a lot of manual, repetitive, mundane tasks. Yeah. So I think it comes down to how we see this technology could benefit us. And I recall going to one of the recent Dell conferences, right? And they highlighted 3 key skill sets to really thrive and adapt in the future where AI is going to be really front and center. And that is 1, AI fluency, the ability to be able to understand and harness this technology. Secondly is creative thinking. How can we be more creative based on that, using that technology? Because it can really augment us and make us more productive. And thirdly is to the learning agility, right? So goes back to the old saying, having a curious mindset, never stop learning. Today's world, a lot of the knowledge and skills can really transform so fast that we have to constantly learning and adapt to it. So that's how I see that from an enterprise and even in our personal life, right? How we can really having that human machine sort of relationship going forward. And it's important really to ensure that experience, right? Because the age of chatbot taught us a lot of lessons, is that I get switched off straight away if the chatbot can't repeat something that I already told it. That careful design in that human machine sort of interactions relationship is critical. Yeah. And I can refer to another story of IBM HR journey today. So back in 2017, IBM HR team decided to really use AI technologies to help automate a lot of the manual tasks, such as answering a lot of this repetitive queries, FAQs, etc. So it started to really come up with a chatbot and pushes down to every employee, staff managers to start using it. Yeah. Right. So initially, the response was actually the NPS score, which is a score between negative 100 to positive 100 of end user satisfaction, actually dropped, because that original design was focused around the IBM HR, right? Yeah. Apply that methodology to automate that task. So it was a very HR centric type of thinking framework, and technology was designed around that. But then it learned its lessons. It's collective feedback from the end users. The end users appreciate the fact that it's real time, the fact that it can be personalized. So it basically refined the technology, right, to be more user centric, to really take on the feedback, to ensure that smooth user experience. And today, 280,000 strong IBM workforce can pretty much 90-something% plus adoption rate of that. I can test myself is that a lot of those, I really have to really get to an actual human HR person to deal with any HR queries. Most of that can be dealt automatically via this kind of virtual assistant. So, and today that has the use cases has really started to expand more into like talent acquisition, recruitment process, into a lot of different areas. And I think that's the lesson from adopting technology, is that think big, right? Yeah. Think about the possibilities, but start small. Yeah. And then really don't be afraid to fail fast and fail quick, and then reiterate as quickly as possible. And then seek adoption champions to really try and drive it. And to me, that's one of potentially the first immediate cases organization can start with by embracing this AI-empowered technology. Because A, it's internal, so it's less risky for organizations, and B, it can really help make the HR and a lot of internal processes much more efficient which essentially is cost savings and productivity gains for organizations. And then gradually, once you have the confidence, you can start expanding on the use cases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, we were speaking before we jumped on here, and even my role alone and things like that, there's certain things where AI is handling things that I don't want to be doing on a daily basis. The most value I can add is talking to my candidates, talking to my clients, spending that personal time with them rather than being bogged down with manual tasks.
Yeah.
There's so much potential from AI. It's not a case of looking at it and going, well, this is going to replace me.
Yeah.
It's about, okay, well, how do I need to evolve my skill set with the technology to thrive in the future? And I think those people who are taking that approach early are the ones who are ultimately going to succeed.
Yeah. And I think that's from a personal perspective, right? Not just in work settings, just how can we really have that mindset to start embracing this technology and really leverage to our own benefit, right, in terms of productivity. Like some of the things that I've started to do at work is if I wanted to, say, come up with a personalized email about a new product or releases, I would ask some of our internal assistant to start creating the first draft, and then I can find curator, etc. And that really helps me to save a lot of time.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, look, we could speak all day about AI. It's been a really, really great conversation with you, Stephen, today. So I really appreciate you coming down and talking us through all those things. So we're going to include a few notes in the show notes to some of the things we've referenced. And I'm guessing for people who don't already, I would suggest going on LinkedIn and following Stephen. He's always putting up really interesting articles, really good content about AI. And if you're interested, what's the best way for people to kind of connect with you and speak with you?
Just LinkedIn, give me a shout. I'm more than happy to have a conversation, have a great chat about where this area is, where I see is truly going to be transformational for civilizations going forward.
Excellent.
Right? It will have its bumps just like any other technology, right?
Yeah.
But never in history has a technology that has so much impact to human in such a short period of time.
Oh no, it's going crazy fast.
Yes,
it is mad.
If my memory is right on stat, and don't quote me for, I think the adoption rate of ChatGPT was like, we're talking about months in terms of getting to, millions or hundreds of million end users. It's like the fastest ever in history. So it is here, and how we see it, like how we interacted with it, will determine how we can really thrive and prosper in the future.
Excellent. Cheers, Stephen. Thank you, mate.
Thank you, Adam, for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.